Early exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Having done an overview of the critical challenges with Nigeria, looking at some issues with state policing, the call for constitution review, the call also for electoral reform and credibility, as well as other issues Nigeria has been battling with since the country gained independence in 1960. Let's look at how a new nation, a new Nigeria, which everyone hopes for, every Nigerian hopes for and dreams for, can be achieved, and how the youth can be part of this. Now, when you hear sit with elders and you hear them talk and talk about the good old days, and sometimes they're not very pleased with the conduct of some young persons. They feel like, oh, there is more decadence. There's also a deviation from the culture, the customs, and norms of Nigeria that made the country a very beautiful and pleasant one to live in their days. So we have an elder in the house who will be looking at these issues and how that new nation that Nigerians hope for and dream for can be achieved is architect Ovie Binitie. Good morning. Happy Independence Anniversary to you and welcome to an exchange.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me. Great to see you guys. Great work you're doing here.
It's great to have you here too. All right, so let's look at Nigeria, beginning from your time. I mean, when you were very young, as a young man in Nigeria, looking at when Nigeria just gained independence. How was life? How was it living in Nigeria? And what was the culture at that time that you think also helped Nigeria at that time?
Well, interesting question. I was born 11 days after independence, 12th of October 1960. So I'm a baby of independence.
Oh, wow.
You know, and
So 11 days to your birthday.
yes, 11 days to my birthday. So I've grown and lived in Nigeria that was thriving and has slowly unraveled because of very poor exchange of good ethics for very poor and bad ethics. So Nigeria has slowly degenerated in things like dignity of labor. People no longer think, handwork is a useful thing. People think that quick money is the way to go. No, everything grows. And in Nigeria we grew up in, we understood that everything grew, organically. Everything takes time to mature. Nothing happens suddenly. And sadly, that's where we find ourselves today as a nation, where young, men and women think that they can make things happen suddenly. No. Dignity of labor is what leads to the maturation of the reward. We want rewards without putting in the hard work. And that's what, we had in the past growing up. We had scholarships for students to go to school, all up to university. We had, this government just introduced student loan scheme. So we had student loan schemes where you went through school with loan provided by the government. Their office was at Ipori there. So, but slowly there has been a degeneration of values in the country, which, by the special grace of God, we keep advocating that we must go back to those values, especially respecting the dignity of labor.
Well, today is also the International Day of Older Persons, and the 2024 theme is Aging with Dignity. We're going to come back to, this conversation, but then it's imperative that we bring in Dr. Agbelusi, who he's been standing by. He's joining us virtually. He is an accredited mediator and independent arbitrator with the CEDR, Dr. Adeyemi Agbelusi. Good morning to you.
I'm happy to be here. Happy independence to Nigeria.
All right, so we want to get you in on the conversation. The whole idea is to see if we could cast a new vision for a new nation, considering the culture, customs, value of Nigeria. What are the key challenges, you might say, that's facing Nigeria's culture, custom, and value in the 21st century?
Okay, that's a fantastic question. Thank you. The primary challenge I think that faces us as a nation is the question of leadership. Um, it takes visionary leadership to inspire hope and confidence in a nation. It is the leaders who articulate a compelling future that makes people have hopes and aspirations. And this is what drives their commitment to what we call national interest. So such leaders must embody integrity, courage, and prioritize communal gains over partisan or personal gains. So taking your last speaker who spoke from the point of our elections and our electioneering, you'll find that it's absolutely a problem from our leadership recruitment process that gives us leaders who definitely kill the morale of the people, don't drive any form of clear vision or direction for where we're going as a nation. And as people become hopeless, they tend to degenerate in values, degenerate in morals, and the national identity becomes questioned, and then you have all kinds of divisions, because where there is no clear vision, you have differing visions, which is what we call divisions. And so the fault lines of the country begin to appear, and that's really where we are now.
Okay, Dr. Adeyemi Agbelusi, let's look at Nigeria. From where you left off, there's been like a fault somewhere in foundation, particularly for the younger generation. Now, if we look at where this is coming from, where can we point it to and say, this was where we got it wrong? Is it governance? Is it society? Where actually the issues with foundation of having value? We used to hear there is dignity in labor, but I don't know if that statement still echoes and holds true today.
Okay, well, as a dispute resolver, from my legal training and from my training in mediation and arbitration, I always say to people that there are many sides to the story, and it's difficult to say which side is correct. So the fact is that where do we get it wrong? It's a question that you can have a sociologist, a political scientist, an economist, a criminologist, all kinds of people do their research and come up with different findings. So I wouldn't want to attempt to go there. I'll just try to submit from my own point of view what's going wrong. So from my own point of view, societies are built. They're intentional. Bafemi Awolowo is quoted reputedly for making the statement that Nigeria is just a mere geographic expression. I think many people misunderstand that statement. It's not that Nigeria does not exist materially and it's just a geographic expression, but it's actually a maxim. It's a maxim from legal jurisprudence that countries are geographic expressions. So if you say I'm an American, if you say I'm a Russian, if you say I'm an Arab national, these are just geographies. Actually, nobody chooses where they were born. Nobody chooses their tribe. Nobody chooses their skin color. Nobody chooses their race and ethnicity, etc. So when people come together and they come, or they either they come together or they are put together, and they are now in a geographic space and they call themselves a country or a nation, it's very geographic. They have to now make it happen. And this happens through their adoption of national ideals, national identity, national culture, etc. So Nigeria as a nation, really, we celebrate the dignity of labor. And that's just taking the example you made, for instance. So when we play football, our team goes out there, they put in their best, and they win the match. We come back here, we celebrate them. When people break the odds, like I know recently there was a young man who was, I think he was a bread seller or a food seller or something, and was doing it so well. And I think somebody now, or meat pie seller, somebody has not given him a house and giving him a car, etc., and try to help him brush up his selling skills. And so we as a people, really, we appreciate people working hard. But the aberration is what is maybe more reported in the media, especially on social media, where people take shortcuts, people have unexplained wealth, people break the rules or bend the rules to achieve some kind of prosperity materially, and that sort of ties all Nigerians as people who don't benefit from hard work. But I think if you especially go to the diaspora, you find that many Nigerians are resilient. All over Africa, in most of our countries, by 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, you won't find anybody on the road. But at 5 a.m. in Nigeria, 4 a.m., you find people carrying fruit, you find people carrying meat, you find truck drivers by 7 o'clock, 6 a.m., there is already traffic. People are going out to hustle and to work and to pay their bills. And many people are really, really working hard to change their own fortunes, despite the many odds against them. So, like I said, there are many sides to the story. One side could be that, oh, Nigerians have lost the value of dignity of labor. I don't think so. I know many young people who are in traffic, running for kilometers, selling handkerchiefs, selling bananas, selling granuts, and they do that day after day after day after day. And I sometimes wonder how much do they even earn, but they keep at it because that's the spirit of resilience. They realize that if they keep at it, little by little, they may come out of this situation. So for me, that's my point of view. That nations are built, nations are intentional. People have to come together to work, identify key national values that will build national identity and promote them, not just the stories of the ones that are aberrations.
Thank you so much, Dr. Agbelusi. Well, let's just turn our attention a little bit to Architect Ovie, who is here with us in studio. You were saying something before we moved over to Dr. Agbelusi. We didn't want to keep him away from the party for too long. And I want to still keep up with dignity in labor. Now, here's my own point. You talked about Nigeria evolving. You've seen an organic growth, and that's what we had. But then we have older persons now, people who are in their 60s, 70s, talk about how they built their first house in the, when in their 20s, bought their first cars in their 20s, built their first houses in their 30s. And you just oppose that with what's obtainable now. Some people are struggling to earn enough to even get married, buy a vehicle, because of the cost of, these vehicles, and, own a property. Someone tells you, I built my bungalow, that story building, when I was before I turned 30. And, you had people starting up families quite early. But then putting that side by side with what's obtainable now, it's a far cry. And if we had to say what has gone wrong, I mean, who else would be in a better position other than you to probably give us some insight?
All right. Well, productive work is dependent on your ability. Now, in those days, people were gainfully employed post-training. Now, anybody can do anything. Anybody can claim to be able to do anything. But look at how the workmen around you are today. Very many of them, most of them, are not very proficient in what they do.
Okay.
So proficiency means that you are going to earn more than the less proficient. Now, proficiency depends on training. If you are not trained, you do to the level of your understanding. But if your hands are trained, now
And you're skilled enough.
you are skilled. Now, take a tree. You use a blunt axe to cut down a tree versus using a sharp axe to cut down that same tree. Now, the blunt axe could take you 2 days to cut down, and you're being paid on a daily basis. The sharp axe, rather than spend 2 days in cutting down the tree, you have spent 30 minutes to sharpen the axe. And in 30 minutes, the tree is gone. Now, this is the difference between then and now. Tragically, we don't have training facilities in Nigeria any longer. We had a government that said we don't need technical schools in Nigeria any longer. People are going to be university graduates. But hey, listen, the university graduate brings up the thought. The people who will execute it and make it bring it to fruition need to be trained. Now, there's no country that can make progress without trained workforce, not learned workforce, not apprenticeship workforce. No, trained. You put people through the rigor of training to acquire the ability to sharpen the axe, so that when you put the axe to the tree is gone. Now, those people who were able to build in those days were people whose axes had been sharpened by training. Our people are not being trained. There is no economy that can do well without a trained workforce. Most of the big companies you see in Nigeria today, the biggest who does all the road projects in Nigeria, they do not have workforce. They work 3 months in Lagos, they shut down the project and move the team to Calabar because they don't have enough trained personnel. And Nigeria has a huge population that is begging to be employed, running on the streets, selling handkerchiefs. That's wasting human beings, capacity. But when you gather people together, hone them, train them. There's light in this studio. Is this light harmful? No. But when you focus the light, it becomes what you call a laser beam. A laser beam will pulverize this place in a second. That's the power of focus and training. Now, we need leadership that needs to recognize that the people need to be pointed in the right direction. The right direction is acquisition of skills. The right direction is training people in the requisite skills. You take your car to a vulcanizer. Your car has 5 wheel nuts. By the time you are going away,
He has 4.
he has 4. And you ask him, what's happening? He says,
Manage them.
it doesn't matter. It does matter, because now, when you are training people, you are training them to be able to interrogate the question, why? Why is this thing happening? Now, if you can't answer that primary question, don't do anything, because you don't know what you are dealing with. So when you go to a hospital, the first thing they do a test on you. They diagnose what the problem is. They don't just give you drugs. So diagnosis is what training does for you. Now we have a huge, massive population. Don't train people on hairdressing. Don't train people on events management. Those things are, they are leaves, they are peripheral. The foundation is people. This table, the components of this table is all petroleum. This whole table is all petroleum. This chair is petroleum. And we have it loads that we don't know what to do with. We export it and import this. And yet our people cannot be employed to produce these things because, like Dr. Agbelusi said, leadership is intentional, is visionary. Where there's no vision, everybody does as they like. And that's where we find ourselves, because there's no vision to harness the people, focus them, and point them in the right direction.
Okay, let's look at it as it is now. So, technical education seems to have faded away in Nigeria. Though we still have some technical schools, some technical colleges, but they're not exactly what they.
Universities as well.
Yes, we have polytechnics and we have some courses that are quite technical in their nature. We have engineering, faculty of engineering. But what we do see now is that you have graduates from these institutions come out and then they enroll as apprentice in some roadside shop to gain the practical knowledge of these things. Now, yes, leadership has a role to play, but what is the role of the people as well? You gave the example of the vulcanizer, the roadside vulcanizer, whom you take your car to, and then you hope that your car should be better because there was a fault, perhaps with your tires when you took it there. At the end of the day, while they were doing their job, they made it worse. So the attention to detail, the attention to learn and acquire the skills seem to be absent now in many people. People want to make quick money. They want to get into a venture that they get quick money. Do you think that if that attitude is still there and is rife, even if the leadership gets it right, it will yield the results that they got in time past? How do we tackle this?
You see, the responsibility of leadership, right, is accountability. If you are given an assignment, right, it's a responsibility. Then you must be able to give account for what you have done with that assignment that given to you. Let me break down education for you. All right. Now, the engineer is the person who crafts the thoughts, so he goes to university. Right. Now, the people who oversee the execution are those that have been sent to polytechnics. Even Nigeria is scrapping polytechnics and converting polytechnics to universities. It's just madness as far as I'm concerned. Because every level of work requires specific people to handle them. And then you have those who do the technical work. I took my car to a vulcanizer. I said, I put the pressure on 30. He said, "Oga, come and look at it. I don't understand 30. They didn't teach me that one." See, apprenticeship is grossly misunderstood in Nigeria. When you attach yourself to somebody as an apprentice, you can only acquire to the level of that person's ability. Yeah. And I dare say that you will not get 100% because sadly, as a people, we do not open ourselves up to our apprentices. We say, so he wants to do everything. There's knowledge hoarding, right? So you need a structured environment where there's no knowledge hoarding, where you pass on, you pour yourself out into your trainees and get them to do what they are. When you have an understanding of what you are supposed to do, you are encouraged to think the solution, not put in a straight jacket of this is how we do it. There's nothing like this is how we do it. If there was something like this is how we do it, we won't be sitting here. We'll all still be sitting under a tree somewhere. But people are thinking. So what we need to do is to encourage people to think outside of the box. I train artisans. I train plumbers. I'm an architect. I trained as a plumber at 46 years old. I acquired the skill to be a plumber at 46. I train plumbers. I tell them, don't be afraid of making mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. It's not your money. You make a mistake, you know that is not the way to do it. And that you won't repeat it tomorrow. When I'm not there with you, you will do the right thing. So I put you through the rigor of doing the right thing now. And that is the responsibility of leadership. Look, government is trying to cast this very wrong notion of the people are responsible. No. That's why you are the leader. You are the leader of the pack. You chart, you are ahead, you are clearing the road, you are charting the course. People are following you. Now, if you get to a traffic light and it's on red, you see everybody adjusting to look for how they'll get closer to the, because leaders, when they get to the traffic light, pass the traffic light, they're in a hurry to go to where? They're not in a hurry to go to anywhere, to go and do anything positive. No. Privilege is not about, being the one that wins the race. No. Privilege is about showing the right examples, leading by example. Now, you can't lead if you don't have a vision. And let me tell you about what leadership is. Leadership is expressing yourself in public what you have always been in private. So when you are given office, for instance, for the first 2-3 weeks, months, you can, try to adjust yourself. I'm in a new environment. I have to show good example. But you know what happens? Habit kicks in. And slowly you go back to template. So our people need to be trained.
Dr. Agbelusi is standing by. Let's just get him into the conversation. Ovie. We might just get carried away listening to you. Dr. Agbelusi, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm there with you.
You've been gleaning from the experience and knowledge of architect Ovie, but then I'd want to find out what you think about our cultural diversity, way of life, and how we can leverage on it, as Nigerians for national development.
Okay, so Nigeria has a very huge, diverse population with many tribes and different ethnicities within it. And each of these people have their own strengths and their own weaknesses. But with good leadership, we can bring it together and showcase events. So, like the snippet you showed before we started, you saw that when there's a cultural dance, the Fulani have their own way of dressing and dancing. The Efik people, the BBO, the Edos, the people from Asaba, the Delta, and all of that, and the Yoruba, the Jebus, and all of that. We all have our different potpourri of even our food and our dressing and our dancing and all of this and our music. So how do we come together to show that there's none who is superior to the other? And how can we use it to bring in tourism and also bring in investment in this area? Again, it comes back to leadership. The leadership of Nigeria does not see any value, in my own opinion, in tourism. You hardly find that there's a coherent policy to attract people, both Nigerians in diaspora and foreigners, to come to Nigeria, visit our 36 states, and see what they have to offer in terms of cultural diversity. And the different festivals that we have, the different nuances we have in our different ethnic regions, there's no deliberate intention to advertise this to the world. So Nigerians in foreign nations can celebrate the New Year festival, they have Igbo Day, have Yoruba Day, and the foreigners look at it with amazement and with awe that, oh, this is really something we like. You can see that in many of the social media now, the Nigerian mode of getting married is being compared to the Indian mode of getting married, which is very extravagant, very lavish, and very celebratory, and people are copying that. So yes, we can leverage on our cultural diversity to harness tourism and to make money from it. It's not just to show that we have culture and tourism, but to actually make money from it, to create employment, to deepen our arts, our theater, deepen our music, and our film industry. You see, the aim of having government is that government thinks very big. And then when government thinks at the macro level, people fall into place at the micro level. So if the government has a national film tourism, like I listened to a lady lament a few days ago on the waste that is the National Theatre. How it is just locked up, nobody is going there, there's no employment, there's nothing happening there. So if you have a friend, for instance, visiting you today from Netherlands, or from Russia or anywhere, and they say, look, I want to go around Lagos, where do you take me to? You probably think of taking them to Fela Shrine, which was what one person opened maybe in the 70s. And you know that even President Macron came to Nigeria, that was the place he went to. But look at our maritime industry and look at how we're wasting the amount of blue economy we have in terms of fishing and so many things that we can do. And so when people go to Venice and they take the Venice boat ride and they pay so much for it, take pictures on it, the Italians are making money from it. So you see, the culture of Nigeria in terms of our food, our dressing, so many things can be exported worldwide, can become a way of earning income and creating employment for people. But I'm sorry, it falls part of the leadership having a big picture of it and seeing the possibilities in it. So until we do that, I mean, when we look at the Ghana Cape Coast and the Mandela Robben Island and how much is being made from in Cape Town and South Africa, I look at our own Badagry as a whole place, even forget even the slave coast and other areas. Badagry as a whole place is derelict. There's nothing happening in Badagry. Even the road to Badagry is totally gone. And now you have the slave chains and all those things totally decrepit. The first building, the first house of Ajayi Crowder, etc., they're all totally neglected. So it takes a large mind to see that when you have this kind of huge population, where there is so much economic challenge in terms of earning an income and being relevant, it takes a visionary leadership to see that people can actually be pushed into this area. I read somewhere, I hope it was wrong. I read somewhere in the last few weeks, I think it was in the Economist on a magazine, that the Benin people have lost the art of making those beautiful artworks that Benin is known for. You know, what was plundered and did not be returned. And that art and craft skill, which was in families in Benin, is now being lost, and there's no young person who's carrying up those traditions. I hope it's not true. If it is true, then the state government and the federal government needs to see how that can be preserved, because those artworks, those masks are things that can populate galleries and can export Nigeria to the world. So there are so many things that can come out of culture and tourism. For my own self, apart from preserving our history and our values and our customs, they also project us to the world and earn income and create employment, which is something that I think we need to be thinking about at this point in time.
Okay, let me allay your fears about the arts, kind of artworks that are done in Benin or the Benin culture is known for. That has not been completely eroded. We still have, or in Benin, if you go there, the bronze casting, the artworks where there's bronze casting and other kinds of artworks are still there, though not like it used to be, which would also need some intervention. Now, expanding that, there are different kinds of artworks that Nigerian culture is known for. If you move away from the Benin artworks, you go to other parts of Nigeria. You see here of the terra culture and so many other kinds of artworks, even to textile and the fabrics that we use, the adire, the tie and dye kinds of things. Those seems to be something that you don't have as much as it used to be. Now, while architect Ovie was talking, he mentioned the need for training and apprenticeship that should be one that delivers value and makes people proficient. But we have a system where certificates are valued even more than the skills. So you see some persons do not even want to go through such trainings because the certificates that they come out with is not equal in the labor market as that of those who've gone to the universities. If we bring that and try to tie it with tourism, how do we bring a sort of balance so people can be encouraged to be proficient in skills, in arts, in culture that will bring lots of revenue for Nigeria in tourism?
Okay, for me, that's a very challenging question, honestly. It's something I've thought about several times because being in Nigeria and being out of Nigeria, I'm totally amazed at exactly what you are asking. A chef in in a foreign country, a chef, a taxi driver, a bus driver, basically anybody who is blue collared has a higher earning capacity than those who are in white collar. So you can have an engineer in Germany who actually will take off his engineering and go and become a technician because he's paid per hour, he has overtime, and he has better package as a technician than as an engineer. Same thing with an architect. An architect in a foreign country will earn less than a mason. When you call out a mason or you call out the builder, what he even asks you to deposit before he even gives an appointment is totally, totally unheard of. But the opposite is in Nigeria. These people are looked at as if they're the scum of the earth, and that's why you find that polytechnics are struggling to be upgraded to universities. People don't value the HND any longer or the OND. They want to have the degree, and at the end of the day, the certificates produce very little jobs. So people are caught in a circle of now they have a degree, they have a PhD, but they're ready to be Uber drivers or just sustain themselves by running a small barbie salon or doing barbecue at events to make ends meet. So again, it comes back to a national policy. From tilers to plumbers to electricians, all these people need to be adequately trained and appreciated as people who run the economy. I think it was during COVID that people realized, the importance of healthcare workers, not even now the doctors, but even those who are at the lower rung of the healthcare system. So many Nigerians who want to travel abroad. I know a center in Abeokuta where bankers and engineers, etc., who are intending to migrate out of Nigeria, actually go and do a 6 months or 1 year program to pick up these technical skills and then go abroad and practice those trades and make money. Whereas in Nigeria, we shun such things. So again, this correction will come through a national wage system, a national reward system, a cultural value of appreciating people who do this kind of work. If somebody comes to say to you now that, oh, I want to marry your daughter, and say, what do you do for this? I'm a plumber. You will probably tell the person to walk out. But in a foreign country, that person is somebody that will be highly appreciated. Because that your daughter will never be hungry because there will always be people who have plumbing issues in winter and at times of the year. So it's a societal thing that people want to have big degrees, PhD, professor, and all of that. But at the end of the day, the people who have quick job are people that do wrought iron, people that do electrical work, plumbing work, and carpentry work, and all of this. So if you give them enough impetus by teaching them, what is wood, what are the types of wood, and not to just preparing this carpentry work, but even preparing them for export and any foreign exchange, and advertising them to the world. When you do all of this in the leather industry, the painting, and all these industries, then you find that there becomes a national culture of celebrating people who have these skills, and they also become members of society, and they are looked up to. So the government want to appoint ministers, and they appoint people who have big degrees and people who have skills, and not put in any kind of meaningful position. So people now aspire to drop those skills and go and get the titles and then remain jobless. Whereas those who have these skills are being highly sought after. So look at the refinery we have, and not even refineries in Nigeria are coming up. I don't know how many engineers we've employed there. I should very, very few. But I know that quite a large number of technicians who work in that refinery. A lot of technicians be needed to run the different components of that refinery. But do we have polytechnics that will produce such technicians? I doubt it. I doubt it. And same goes for many other industries that we have in different corridors of our national life. So the technical education that is being lost and the blue collar that is frowned upon and looked down on in our country is a loss to our youth because they remain unemployed. And again, it becomes a cul-de-sac because who moves the wheel? And who changes this national perception? Like I said, the jury is out there, and I don't know who's going to bail the cat.
Thank you so much, Dr. Adeyemi Agbelusi, for joining us. We understand that you have to take time out to be with us on the program. You have a busy day, and it will be imperative that we allow you on. But beyond that, we appreciate the conversation, and we're looking forward to having more with you on Early Exchange.
Thank you very much. Happy independence to Nigeria, and I hope that we continue to be resilient, be focused, and know that our challenges for today are for today. A better future is ahead of all of us. Thank you very much.
Come. All right, we'll move over to the old young man in the building. International Day for Older Persons, someone who was born in the year Nigeria gained its independence. Very unique. And of course, you've seen Nigeria flourish, and you, if I had to use your own words, slow down. How can we get back on the fast track? How can we get back to that point? As a way of wrapping up, the show. We've had consecutive governments say they were going to return the dollar to 1 naira to a dollar. I know that there's a time it used to be like that, where if you wanted to travel to London, it was easy, where preference was given to Nigerians, in all sphere. But it's not the case. As a matter of fact, we have to meet up with the standard globally.
Well, self-worth is the first step to climbing out of wherever you find yourself.
Okay.
You need to value yourself before any other person can value you. So I'm a plumber. I graduated architecture school in 1987. I was 26 years old when I graduated as an architect. 20 years later, I went to school to learn plumbing. I'm a plumber, right? When I told my wife I was going to go on this journey, it was, a difficult thing for her to take. I mean, your husband is a plumber, but see, the most regular visitor to your house is a plumber because you have endless plumbing problems. And each time he comes, you pay him money. So the analogy I give to anybody who I speak to is, if you sit there in an office, let's assume you get minimum wage, 70,000 naira. Okay, you're a graduate. How much do you earn as a receptionist? 120,000 naira. I doubt if any receptionist in Nigeria earns 200,000 naira. But as a plumber, for instance, you earn 10,000 naira a day. If you work 24 days, if you are busy 24 days in a month, you've earned 240,000 naira in a month from the skill that you acquired. And if you get a contract, of course, I mean, it
shut down.
Goes without saying. So we need to understand that if you call me to come to your house, for instance, you pay me to come. I'm not spending my money to come and look at your problem. Because if you are sick and you carry yourself to the hospital, you pay your way to the hospital. So if you have a problem and you need me to come, you pay me a call-out fee. I come, see, look, you don't have to pay me. I simply don't come.
So it means that the plumber will always
earn
have
money.
jobs.
So the point is, where we are going to is, when you have a skill and you know the value of your skill.
Self-worth.
Yes. Then
first training, secondly, self-worth.
Then Nigeria, each person in the scheme of things will begin to carry Nigeria, because when we join our hands together in self-worth, I traveled to the UK in the 80s. I just enter into an aircraft and travel there. I present them my passport. They say, "Oh, how long are you staying?" 6 weeks. No visa. But then one day they said, you must get a visa because our values slowly eroded. Our sense of self-worth also slowly eroded. And this was because of the leadership that was leading us away from the right path and pointing us in the wrong direction.
Well,
So once we are able to make the right choices of those who will lead us, Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore determined that his country was going to be a proper nation. Lee Kuan Yew's wife could not ask him for a favor when it comes to governance. So as long as we are willing to live a life where we grant favors to people who will not do the right thing, where there's no consequence for doing the wrong things, my brother, my sister, we will not climb up.
I want to be Lee Kuan Yew. I want to sleep.
Lee Kuan Yew seems to be very popular in early exchange because a lot of analysts refer to him. Well, I think that's because of what he stood for and what development he brought to Singapore. That's why he's mostly referred to. Well, what I take from what you said is that there is no end to learning. If you at 46 could decide you wanted to acquire the skill of plumbing and you actually did go for it, and today you're a plumber, you're very proud of it, amongst other things that you are. I don't think for you watching, maybe you're 30, you're 35, you've not acquired a skill and you think, well, it's night for you. Take this as a message from Early Exchange on Independence Day that you can do it. And for Nigeria, 64 years, there are several things that Nigeria has not gotten right, but it is not late. There is a saying that it is when you wake up that is your morning. Yeah, I borrowed that from an elderly person. Maybe you should sit more with elderly people to get to hear things like that. So at 64, if Nigeria chooses to wake up from slumber and get to do things that will bring Nigeria to the level of value, to the level even better than what the country used to be, where Nigeria was well respected amongst the Committee of Nations, then it will be that. And we all have a role to play. You and I have our roles to play. In your chosen field, what value do you bring? Are you proficient in your skill? Or when you sit side by side someone from another country in your skill, they choose to hire the other person because they feel, oh, this one, he didn't learn the skill. Well, are you that vulcanizer that when they come, when the car is leaving, instead of 5 knots, they have 4 because you didn't know what you were doing? Or when they say pump the tire to 30, you're asking, what is that? I wasn't taught that. Let's ensure that we're masters of our game. I am blessing AJ. This is Nigeria's 64th independence anniversary. There is still hope for Nigeria. Let's celebrate. Forget the pains. Well, it may be hard, but that is the only way that we can think of the way not to feel those pains again. And Exchange returns tomorrow, 8 a.m. West African time. Follow us on our social media platforms at Souq News TV. Leave a comment on today's edition and be sure to share it. You're free to share. Sharing, of course, is free. And don't forget that IL FM 104.9 is here where business meets bit. To have yourself a great independence anniversary. For those who are not Nigerians, have yourself a wonderful day.
Well, it's also the International Day of Older Persons, and we've had the privilege of speaking with architect Ovie Binitie, who was born in the year Nigeria got independence. And of course, we've gleaned from him one takeaway. It's good to be trained. It's good to acquire training. But as Blessing probably has a handwork, I have mouth work.
Handwork.
You have a hand. I have mouth work.
I will tell you what that is. You pay for my skill. I can make it happen.
And so I'll use my mouth to say, Nigeria, we hail thee. And of course, taking the words from that national anthem, though tribes and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. My name is Temple Bara. Do have yourself a wonderful day and keep following Souq News Television. And on behalf of everyone who has made this program and this show possible, bye for now.
Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.